I would like to thank, before I get into some of the specifics, I would like to thank Lewis Mayor Jim Ford. I don't know, is Jim still here? And the University of Delaware for hosting us today. There's been great partnerships going on, whether it's Lewis and actually Rehoboth had a great bike meeting earlier this morning about their trail plan. I was hoping to get there and I actually got tied up north with a cabinet meeting. But when I think about the partners that are involved in these efforts, it really is inspiring in a lot of ways. And whether it's the Delaware Bike Council or OMAP Go, DelDOT, Bike Delaware, Dover Kent Metropolitan Planning Organization, the White Clay Bicycle Club, Sussex Cyclists, the Delaware Greenways, there are great partners that are working on this. And I apologize if there's many other organizations that I didn't mention. And I'm just grateful to the sponsors that helped make this happen. A year ago, I was here. How many of you were at the event at the Atlantic Sands that we held with Mark Fenton last year? Many people? He gave a very inspiring talk, and he kind of challenged us at the end of his speech. Mark's one of these kind of nationally renowned folks about really looking at the ways to build smarter communities and really having trails and pedestrian kind of walkable, bikeable communities be a centerpiece of the communities. And he challenged us, and he said, look, for a state your size, you guys could become a national leader very quickly. And there's so much great work has been done. When I think, back to 1991, when Mike Castle started a lot of the investments in the work in the Delaware Greenway, and a lot of great efforts that have been kind of passed from one administration to the next, Republican, Democrat, upstate, downstate, all working towards the same goal. What we need now is we need those big investments to really connect those dots. And it really was inspiring when Mark said, he said, look, I think you guys can become a national leader. You need to come up with a holistic plan that's focused on interconnection, really focused on connectivity, really trying to focus on how to get communities kind of connected within themselves, also from community to community. And he said, think big. And so last year, because of the leadership of folks like Senator Bob Venables from Laurel, as well as many others, and Senator Sokolis here as well, and many others on the Joint Finance Committee and in the legislature, we were able to actually receive $7 million for trails, which I think has got to be one of the largest proportional or per capita investments in bike trails anywhere in the country. And the beauty of that is, as my friend Jim Wilson says so well, is that is just great seed money that then we can leverage many times over using with federal sources and other types of funds. And so it really is the gift that keeps on giving. And I believe that with some of the projects we're going to talk about in just a second, that we can really make sure that those investments are made for years and years to come, and as we build this statewide movement. And I'm not going to go into my typical spiel about the health benefits and the air quality benefits and the environmental benefits and the childhood obesity benefits and all the other great things. I really want to focus on the projects, because yesterday Governor Markell at the event with John Hollis, I see John's over there as well, he laid out a couple of the projects in Sussex County, and we talked a little bit about finishing the Loblolly Trail. We talked about Gordon's Pond in finishing up the Cape Henlopen loop. Would be a 15-mile loop if we get that done. We have to fix Junction and Breakwater a little bit. Gills Neck Road's a little dicey, as well as the Lewis to Georgetown Trail, and I'll jump into those in a second. But I know the ones that you guys are interested more in, they're the ones we haven't talked about yet, so maybe I'll jump right to that. The first one is obviously the Northern Delaware Greenway. Incredible work has been done on this trail for a long time, and I think the key for it is really just finishing it and kind of finishing the piece. It's a 7.1 mile long trail, connects many suburban and city neighborhoods, schools, businesses, community services, while linking Fox Point State Park, then all the way through the city, through Allapocus, and then into the city zoo. And so what we want to do is there are a few points that we need to fix. There's a few gaps. So the Tally Road area we need to fix. There's a 2.1 mile segment between 141 and Mount Lebanon Road that we also want to connect. And you can kind of see the gaps that are identified there. And really making sure that we have those connections. There's a half-mile segment between Bellevue State Park to Fox Point State Park. There's a 4-lane highway, obviously 495 comes through there. This is a more difficult project, but we want to get it on the board because if we can figure out how to have this connection, basically you can get all the way from the river all the way to the riverfront, and we'll be talking about the riverfront, the industrial track in just a second. And then finally, there's a segment between the Brandywine Zoo and Market Street, or potentially King Street, that'll help us connect that. And so the goal is to really have a 7 to 8 mile trail going through all the way from 495, I'm sorry, all the way through the city of Bloomington. So that's the first one that we have on the list, and so we'd love some feedback on those. And are those the right fixes to make sure we're connecting those gaps? If we can go to the next slide really quick. The next one is the Newark to Wilmington pathway, and there was a great meeting a few weeks ago. I'm guessing many of you were there. I'm beginning to talk about the best way to do this, and obviously there's been a lot of conversations about different pathways. We have some ideas kind of through this middle area, and then connecting to the Pomeroy Trail on the way up to White Clay State Park. But this is one we're going to need a lot of input. There's a lot of communities that are going through, but also a lot of interest, and so this is another another great project. And the goal is to design a potential commuter line from Newark to Fair Play Station being the first phase of it. So there's a lot of potential there, but we're going to want some good feedback on this proposal. If we can jump to the next one. On White Clay State Park, we do have a couple. We want to build and improve, but there's about 5.3 miles of shared use trails that we think have a great potential and create some community connections, linking the existing Pomeroy Trail with some of the communities. And so there's a 0.2 mile on-road segment link that will link some existing trails and create. We need to create 2 state road crossings. We really want to focus on shared use trails up here, given the amount of interest in this park. But for those of you who haven't spent any time up here, this is one of my favorites to get out and cycle on. If I can jump to the next one. We've talked a lot about Auburn Heights. This is the NVF property in Yorkland. It's kind of a disaster. When it was one of these situations where the property went bankrupt in a typical world. What normally happens in these situations is that the state, the developers will go to the trustee, buy all the good bits, and then the state will get left with the most contaminated parts. Because of the brilliance of folks like Chaz Selkin and Matt Chester and some others at DNREC, we were able to actually work with developers to actually secure the entire parcel to have a master plan vision. One big piece of this is going to be a fairly extensive trail network, which we think could be about 6.3 miles worth of trails. This will include things like the Auburn Valley Heights. There's a great museum up there for steam cars and other things, other assets that we can connect. But again, if we can connect this, initially going around the property, but then all the way kind of parallel off-road along Yorkland Road into Hockessin, we think this could be an absolutely beautiful trail network. And there's a lot of potential in the next couple of years. And as you can see, there's kind of 2 sides to the state's land holdings in the area. So we want to connect those 2 and then also give ways to connect to Hockessin. So we're very excited about this potential project. The next one is one that many of you have been lobbying for a long time, and I was grateful to play a small role working with DelDOT and WMAPCO, trying to get this project included in the upcoming TIP. The Newcastle Industrial Track. There's a lot of work to be done here. This is a complicated project. Getting across the river is not going to be easy, but to extend the existing 2.1 mile long trail and then adding 3.2 miles of new trail and the bridge will make this an incredible connector. And when you combine it with what we were talking about earlier with the Northern Delaware Greenway, this becomes an incredible signature trail for any part of the country. The project is going to include the pedestrian bridge across the Christina and then a connection to the riverfront. And the beauty with both the riverfront, the commercial amenities, as well as the Peterson Refuge really help stitch that together. And the great part for all of us is that we'll be able to connect from about 5 or 6 different municipalities to get to those assets pretty easily and not have to get in a car at all. So we're very, very excited about this project. Can I get applause for that one really quick? My staff tells me I have to tell more jokes because it's the only time I get to breathe. So, and obviously this is also a critical part of the East Coast, the Greenway Trail, which is going to go from Maine all the way to Florida. And so and I think putting it through the city, through these kind of industrial areas, as well as the natural beauty of the Christina, through Newcastle, through Old Newcastle, will make this an incredible signature element of the trail. The next one is the East Coast Greenway Trail itself. As I mentioned, it is going to go the entire East Coast. And so obviously it connects to the Northern Delaware Greenway and then Newark's the James Hall Trail. And so this project specifically would compete segments in 3 locations. The Caulfield Parkway to Pennsylvania line part of the project. Oh, this is in Lum's Pond. I already talked about the other one. You guys all know where it is. Okay, I'm going to jump to Lum's Pond really quick. I apologize for that. Lum's Pond is an incredible park. For those of you who haven't spent time there, incredible diversity of assets and trails for horses and for walking and for biking. Some of the biking amenities aren't as good as they could be, and so we're going to take a look at trying to figure out ways to connect the trail. And so we're going to there's 16 miles of trail already inside this park. And so we want to create a bicycle pedestrian shared use trail, and this 2.6 mile trail would actually begin at the park entrance on Howell School Road, and then continue internally along the Jersey Buck Road to the intersection of the Howell School and Route 71. And so the goal would be really have that internal trail that can connect those assets in a great way, as well as creating a 0.25 mile shared use trail to connect to the C&D Canal. So this little trail here, and one of the goals, and we'll talk about C&D in just a second, but is to really making sure that we're linking the assets along the C&D Canal so you can have those great destinations and kind of that reward for the end of your ride and really enjoy. Oh, there's no chance I'm going to talk for 5 more minutes. I appreciate that. You're doing your job, doing a great job. But we're very excited about it, and that leads us to the next project, which is something we announced with many of you a few weeks ago, finally getting the C&D Canal done. There's been a great partnership over the years, starting with Mike Castle, going through Congressman Carney, Senators Kuhn and Carper, to get a lot of federal funding for this project. We have about $4 million at this point. We're also going to apply $1 million of the $5 million that the governor and the legislature secured last year. We believe that can get us a long way to Summit, if hopefully all the way to Summit, but at least close. And so really starting with working close with Delaware City. There's a great team in Delaware City trying to help us with the interconnection around 9 and through Fort DuPont, and then getting all the way across. There's a lot of work to do here. Obviously, there's the easements and things like that aren't a problem. We need to figure out a way to work together to make it safe. This is one of the concerns I have. This is an area that doesn't have a lot of traffic right now, which is great in some ways, but there's some less, maybe slightly more nefarious activities that go on that are going to need to be displaced by a more family-friendly trail. And so a lot of opportunities with this trail, but we're very excited to be able to make a significant improvement. And I got to give a guy at DelDOT named Jeff Nisgoda a lot of credit. He's been leading this vision for a long time. So let's flip to the next slide. So and then jumping down to Kent County. The Dover to Clayton Railroad pathway has been talked about for a long time. It's a great project, and it connects the existing Scarborough Road shared use pathway at Del Tech, and then connect in the community college in Dover to the town of Clayton using the existing rail right away. And so you can see it's a great length. Obviously, trying to get more interconnection with Del Tech is fantastic. And so we're really excited about this project and think we can make good progress on it very quickly. The next project is the Capitol Bikeway. And this is to try to extend the existing bike ped pathway approximately another 7/10 of a mile through the center of Dover to Legislative Hall and the state government complex with connections to the St. John's River Trail. And so you can see the St. John's River Trail, Capitol Bikeway. So the goal is to kind of connect the two so we have that spine. And the beauty of it having we really want to create a showcase. And the governor is very interested in this project because we want to make sure that we're walking the walk in state government. And so by having the governor's office is right here, the Legislative Hall is right there, really having those kind of connections, and then up to the Silver Lake Park trails, and then obviously going further down. And so we think this could be a real gem in the state's capital to really try to connect some of the great historical assets that we've been spending a lot of money trying to maintain with all of our early American history that occurred in these locations. On the same one, we're also going to work on the St. John's River Trail and the Isaac Branch Trail. And these two segments define the existing 3.2-mile St. John's Trail and the Isaac Branch Trail. The upper section begins in Dover Silver Lake Park, and so that's the beautiful park that we have up here that Denrick spent so much time trying to improve. Then extending it through Division Street, and so then kind of coming down through Division Street, and then the sidewalk between Division Street and Lockerman Street to create these community connections. One of the goals is that given all these residential development here, there are great opportunities to have these easy connection points in a bunch of different ways and reduce some of the gridlock that causes challenges in Dover for about 40 minutes, maybe 30 minutes in the morning. And we actually think that this could become a great commuter network. And actually one of the first folks to be trying out will be Secretary Bott himself, who's actually just bought a house in Dover so he can bike to work every day. The next one I want to flip to is Trap Pond. There are some linkages some opportunities that we have to really just extend the incredible network that's down there. This isn't a particularly large project, but the Loblolly Trail needs about a quarter-mile connection to make sure that a tenth of a mile connection to make sure that the area along Wooden Road is safe. And so we believe with this connection and other improvements that we've been continuing to make the last few years, that the trail network in Trap Pond will be as good as pretty much any park in the entire country. So we're excited about that little piece. Where we go next? Going on up to the Cape Henlopen trail projects are fantastic. Obviously, extending there's a couple different pieces to this. There have been some challenges with some of the connections with where folks are getting on and off the Junction Breakwater Trail. And so we really want to make sure that we're expanding the existing 8 miles of shared use pedestrian trails and biking trails along the park's northern and southern portions. So this project will include constructing a 1.8-mile long trail from the park's Gordon's Pond area to Herring Point. So that's this trail here. We've done an extensive, I know there's going to be some conversation about this. There's been a long conversation over the past year and a half with a lot of different stakeholders about how to do this in the most ecologically friendly way. There is some incredible habitat here, and one of my big concerns that I've had since I first visited this spot is that because there isn't a defined path, and we don't really have sufficient enforcement, a lot of folks are kind of either freewheeling or just kind of just going into areas that are a little more sensitive. By having a defined path, having a raised boardwalk in parts, having a very strategic, very very strategically placed trail, I believe that we can actually enhance the resource in many ways, provide some interpretation, let folks know when they're looking at a piping plover or some of the old Swedish artifacts that are there, and really try to make this one of the most incredible kind of ecosystem trails in the entire state, because between the dune systems, the wetlands, and some of the other habitat and cultural amenities, it really is absolutely incredible. And so we're very excited about this project. We do want to work with the community to make sure that it makes sense, but we've been talked about for more than 25 years, and we think the time has come to actually make it work. Also, kind of sticking with within Cape Henlopen, we think Cape Henlopen, in conjunction with the city of Lewis, can really be an epicenter for a bunch of trails. And so we do want to work with the local communities on improving the Junction and Breakwater Trail. The 5.9-mile Junction and Breakwater Trail is located between Gills Neck Road and Hebron Road. And the extensions at both ends of this trail are needed really to create those community connections. And we want to have some serious conversations about how we do that in the smartest way. There are a couple areas, it's just not safe right now. And I've ridden it myself with cars whipping around the corner. And as much as we want that shared use, which is critically important, we need to figure out a way to I think we're going to need a dedicated bike trail. And so Shaylin and I have talked about it significantly. We think there's a lot of opportunity here. Junction Breakwater is one of my favorite trails in the entire state. Connecting it with Gordon's Pond, you get about a 15-mile loop, which would be as nice as many places in the country. And so we do have some improvements to make here, and I can go into some more detail if folks are specifically interested in that project. Yes. Fantastic. The last couple I'm going to run through just really quickly are the Asplundh Canal. The state actually has the right-of-ways along the canal, and we think that there's a great opportunity to connect a bunch of communities. There's been a lot of support from a lot of officials. There's also a couple concerns that have been raised, and so we're going to do some more outreach. But it's about a 2.5-mile shared use trail along the Asplundh Canal. The trail will link to existing sidewalks and pathways serving both recreational and hopefully alternative transportation alternatives. And so we think this is a great project as well. There's also the Fred Hudson Road project. It's only 0.7 of a mile, but it's a shared pathway along Fred Hudson Road, and it'll link to neighborhoods, commercial areas, the Fresh Pond area, and Seashore State Park. And so we think that's another good amenity to help people get from point A to point B. Okay. And then the final one is Killens, which I mentioned briefly earlier. It's just another piece where you just have one piece that isn't really safe along the road. And so we want to make sure that we actually build up the trail there and make it safe for folks that are not competing with car traffic. Next slide. So those are the projects that we've identified for the first phase of this statewide first state bike and pathway trail. We hope that we get a lot of comments and a lot of feedback for it. There are a lot of moving pieces, and obviously there's a significant amount of cost. But we are confident that because we're looking at a comprehensive approach that connects a lot of different communities across the entire state, that this is going to be very attractive, particularly for competitive funding opportunities at the federal level. By doing it as one state initiative, trying to connect communities of all different types, and doing it in a way that shows that we have a state commitment because of those state resources that have been committed, as well as putting it together in a way with partners like all of you, strong support from the delegation. We believe there's a lot of support for potential funding. Before I close, I just wanted to say that the work that all of you are doing is making this possible. FDR is one of my favorite presidents, and he used to say, I agree with you, I think we should do it, now make me do it. We need the support. And I think that the effectiveness of Bike Delaware and Delaware Greenways and so many of the other groups over the past years is that you've had the conversations, both with decision makers, with government officials, to try to figure out solutions in a way that serves the communities best, serves the actual users. This has to be a partnership, and the only way to make sure that it's sustainable is to make sure we have that critical mass of individuals that are really committed to making these kind of investments over the long term. If it's just a $5 or $7 million term investment, that's nice, but we've done that a couple times in the past, and then kind of where do we go from there? What Shaylin and I and Governor Markell are talking a lot about is, what is that 20-year vision look like? This is obviously this is a 2 to 5 year plan. These are a lot of projects, and the reason a lot of these projects are on the list is that they've been on the shelf for a while. A lot of the work's been done. A lot of things are pretty much some design work, some engineering has already been done. But there are many other parts of the state we need to connect. There's parts of Western Sussex, for example, that don't have a lot of connection pieces right now for off-road activity. There's some parts of Western Kent County as well. And so how do we begin to think through the next round? So I know I threw a lot at you. There's a lot of projects in here, but there's also more to do. And so I just want folks to see this as a first step, if you will, the initial attempt that we make to help make our state a little healthier, make it a little friendly, and really improve the quality of life. And so we're going to be reaching out to all of you. I do encourage you to take a look at the plan. I'm going to put up if you can take a look at this website and also the DelDOT website as well, del.gov. We're going to have a lot of information, but we are extremely excited. I cannot say enough about the leadership of folks like Governor Markell and Senator Venables and Senator Sokola and so many others that they just get this, and they live it. They're making the investments, and at the end of the day, if we have healthier kids, cleaner air, and a stronger community, we win for everybody. So thank you so much for inviting me today, and we are absolutely thrilled to be part of this process.